You have fallen through realities and landed in the universe of your favorite TV show, Vikings. I landed with a hard thump onto cold ground, a soft padding of thin snow, not enough to spare any pain. One moment, I had been watching Vikings on Netflix, and the next, falling through the couch, into my mind, into darkness, and then from the sky itself. I pulled myself up, somehow free of injury. A mountainous land appeared before me, a snow-kissed town sprawling over a valley between craggy peaks, wistful trails of smoke and patches of light softly glowing within thatched longhouses. In the distance, the moonlight reflected from the calm waters of the town's bay, stretching into the horizon. The scene looked familiar, but my mind failed to understand from where. All memories seemed clouded, far away and blurred. Was I dreaming? It was cold. The wind bit at my skin, the snow still falling, freezing my bare toes. It didn't feel like a dream. Wherever I was, I needed shelter. Before I froze to death, I slipped and slid down the hill, following the well-trodden path into the town, all the while fighting the feeling that I'd somehow been here before. The festive sound of laughter and drums met my ears, drawing closer as I meandered through the muddy streets between rustic wooden buildings. The air smelled of wood smoke and roasting meat. The sky flickered with lightning, illuminating the shadows, the crash of thunder following and filling the gaps between each pounding stroke of the drums. I reached what seemed to be the town square. A large structure loomed at one side, shields and swords stacked against its walls aside huge iron-rimmed doors. With each pound of drums, they vibrated, a warm glow seeping from its cracks. Like a moth to the flame, I approached, shivering. My frozen hand reached to grab the heavy iron handle. "And who might you be?" a gruff voice said. A big shadow sweeping beside me, a strong hand holding the door firmly shut. I looked to my right to see a beast of a man, with shabby black hair and beard, broad shoulders covered in furs and leather, and a battle axe hanging from a belt at his waist. He smelt like a wet dog, thick and overpowering. "Rollo," I whispered, the name escaping my frozen lips before I could think, a flash of recognition finally sparking in my mind. "Rollo?" His eyes narrowed. "Yes, but who?" he said, appraising my t-shirt and jeans and lack of footwear. "Are you Bob?" I stuttered, feeling full of fear. My eyes stuck to the axe that he now rested a hand upon. He nodded, lips upturned as if understanding, and then he punched me in the face. "You found him where?" a familiar voice said, bringing me out of unconsciousness. Warmth surrounded me like a blanket. As I opened my eyes and lifted my throbbing head, just one look, and everything fell into place. The shaved sides of the head, the braided ponytail, those piercing blue eyes, the legendary Viking himself, Ragnar Lothbrok. By his side was the beautiful Princess Aslaug, Bjorn Ironside, a young Ube leaning on his father's shoulder. Taking a swig from his horn, Ethelstan loomed near. The priest. I blinked hard. They were all still there. What the hell was happening? I was in Vikings? What season was this? I was kneeling before them, in the great hall of Kattegat. Behind us, townspeople carried on drinking and eating, some peering over to see what the commotion was about, but not for too long before Rollo gave them a sharp look. "I found him outside," the huge Rollo said, eyeing me suspiciously still, loitering around the great hall's entrance. "He calls himself Bob. I do not know what to make of him. Such strange clothes." The man had an aura of pure killing intent, like a tiger or bear that could snatch away life at any moment if anyone came too close. "Perhaps our visitor is from a faraway land," Ragnar said with a tilt of the head, his eyes still fixed upon me. "Do you speak our tongue, stranger?" I could understand them. "I do, Lord Ragnar," I said. Ragnar furrowed his face, looking to Ethelstan, who shook his head, but they couldn't understand me. Suddenly, a splitting pain filled my skull, as if Rollo's axe had cleaved it in two. I put out my hand to stop falling to the floor. As the agony subsided, in its wake I felt a strange confidence flow. I spoke again, lifting my head and returning Ragnar's intent gaze. "I understand you," I said, my voice coarse and dry, the words spilling out in what I somehow knew to be perfectly accented Old Norse. I smacked my lips together a few times. It felt so odd, but so bloody cool. I'd always wanted to learn another language. Everyone was looking at me still, with hard stares. I cleared my throat. "My name is Bob, and I come from England. Athelstan. Does he sound like any Englishman you have known?" Ragnar asked, a wolfish smile flashing across his face for a moment before vanishing. With a kind smile, Ethelstan turned to me. I couldn't help but smile back. "Sweet, pure and tragic Athelstan. From where in England do you hail, friend?" "London." He frowned, a worried look. "I do not know it, Ragnar." "Ha! I knew it. He is lying, growled Rollo, now seated with his axe twirling around his hand. He is a spy. We should kill him now and be done with it, brother. Always with the killing, Rollo, Ragnar said with a sigh. A horn suddenly blared, and all sound in the hall ceased. Bodies shifted as one, turning to their leader. Your friends, perhaps? Ragnar said with another tilt of the head, another expression flashing, and then gone. My friends? Desperately, I thought. I couldn't remember any attack on Kattegat at this point of the story. Jarl Borg? No, Ragnar wasn't there. King Horik? It didn't fit. What was going on? My head, filled with nothing but confused thoughts, met the end of Rollo's boot. For the second time, I awoke again with a pounding headache, bound to a pillar in the hall. The sounds of battle all around outside, clashing swords, crackling flames, screaming men and horses, the stomping of boots, the stench of smoke. A raid on Kattegat was underway. But by who? What was happening? I closed my eyes, wishing to wake up on my couch. Why the hell was I here? The gods told me you were coming, a high, lilting voice suddenly said, as if in answer to my thoughts. I squinted into a shadowy corner to see a slim figure leaning against a post, an axe gripped in each fist. The man stepped into a shaft of moonlight, filtering through the smoke hole in the roof, revealing a gaunt, craggy face with ice-blue eyes that gleamed with feverish intensity, a familiar face. And when I saw the symbol on your arm, I knew, he said, trailing off into an unhinged giggle. I looked down at my right forearm and gasped. Some strange black symbol was now etched into my skin. 3 interlocking triangles with 2 ravens either side. When I looked back up, I knew with certainty who stood before me now, grinning like a madman. That crazed laugh, those twitching hands. The shipbuilder, Ragnar's oldest friend, one of my favorite characters of all. Floki, I whispered, extending the O sound just right. He giggled again, as if my words had sent a shiver through him. Oh yes, I made this for you, man who fell from the storm, Floki sing-songed. From under a table, the wiry boat builder lifted a leather bag. Untying the drawstring, he reached inside and slowly revealed an intricately carved wooden handle, runes spiraling down its length. Bound in well-oiled leather, it led to a large solid lump of what looked like iron. Floki heaved it out and up into the smoky air with some effort. A hammer, a massive war hammer, the head as big as a boulder. For you, he whispered, his eyes burning with excitement. I stared between the weapon and him. It looked dangerous, lethal, nothing like the toys you'd see in the Avengers. Take it, you are a god, he shouted, struggling to lift it and place it beside me, unable to contain his jerking movements as he giggled all the while. A god? What in Odin's name was Floki raving about? My thoughts stopped as I caught myself saying Odin's name, and internally cringed. I still hadn't lived down the moment I had said it in front of my wife's friends. Like a bolt from the blue, a pressure started building inside my head, a tingling, static sensation snaking through my skull and suffusing my body with power. I felt my muscles start to swell and writhe painfully under my skin. Thunder boomed overhead, lightning strobing through the smoke holes, shaking the ash-smeared timbers of the great hall. Floki shrieked, dancing from foot to foot. A god. I was a god. In the Vikings universe. It took me a moment to realize I was giggling in very much the same way as Floki. Now go, quickly. Ragnar needs your help. I nodded and tensed my hands, snapping the rope binding me to the rafters. I willed my muscles to grow. I felt the static buzz of lightning power fill the room, electric crackling down my arms and flicking to the hammer, lifting it to my grip. Rising to my now towering height, I thrust the crackling hammer skyward with a building roar and felt the very clouds answer my call, swirling into an angry vortex above Kattegat. I still wasn't sure if this was a dream, but one thing was for sure. I, Bob the Viking Thunder God, was about to unleash this version of mighty Mjolnir and kick some serious ass to save Kattegat.